Hello and welcome to Unfudge Your Marketing. This is a show where I chat with business owners and leaders about their marketing missteps, mishaps, and things that just didn't go quite as planned on their marketing. But most importantly, we focus on the lessons learned for you. I am your host. I'm Kristi Mitchell. I'm a marketing strategist and consultant, and I work with service based business owners who have built their businesses based on referrals and word of mouth. And they know in order to grow for the future and have a bigger impact, they need to finally think more strategically about their marketing. Today, I am so excited to welcome Norma Frahn to the show. With over 30 years of corporate HR experience, Norma saw a major gap in the support available to small business owners. So she decided to change that. Now, as the founder of On Demand HR Solutions, she provides consultative and fractional HR services tailored to businesses that don't have in house HR, but need expert guidance to stay compliant, to streamline operations, and build strong teams. Whether it's handling employee relations, navigating compliance, or optimizing HR processes, she delivers real practical solutions that business owners can actually use. With that, I will welcome Norma to the show.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on the show. I always like to let our listeners know how I met our guests. So, Wendy White is getting a shout out today. Norma and I both just recently participated in a virtual summit that Wendy hosted. And so that's how we got connected. I was immediately drawn to Norma for some stories and lessons learned that she was sharing with the other panelists as far as being gurued, which was a
Yes.
new term I hadn't heard before. And now I absolutely love it because anyone who listens to me and has been following me knows that it drives me crazy when so-called experts out there prescribe a one-size-fits-all model, these cookie-cutter approaches where they
Mhm.
guarantee you're going to get XYZ results if you follow their roadmap, and it drives me crazy. And so as soon as I heard you talk about this, Norma, I was just like, oh my gosh, I want you to come on my show.
Well, I can't take credit for the phrase being gurued. That kind of came out of a coach that I work with, but boy, did it stick with me because that's exactly what happened. So it's
Yes.
I'll give you a little bit of a backstory so that it kind of makes sense. But
Yeah.
I'd been working in corporate America for my entire career. I think it was 2017 or so. I started working with a weight loss coach, and
Mm.
this woman was amazing. As a coach, she was able to pull so much out of me, far beyond any issues I had with my weight. And fast forward another year, I'd lost over 100 pounds. I was an entirely different person. And I
Wow.
was just determined I wanted to be a coach and do what she did. So I went out and got certified, went to the same school she went to, um, came out of that school, followed all of the other folks that had come out of the same place. And many of them were what I would kind of consider celebrity coaches. These were folks that
Mhm.
were front and center every Instagram feed, every Facebook feed, and they were making tons of money. And I thought, well, God, that must be the way. They must know what they're doing. So I followed.
Mhm.
And about a year into that and building my own practice, I had a handful of clients, but it didn't feel right. It felt very
Mhm.
misaligned. And if I were to, when I sat back and thought about it, the business that I had in that moment was not the business I imagined that I'd have. It was very different.
Mm.
Just from the little things like how I was showing up and the tactics that I was trying to use. And I was not a millionaire yet. And I was promised I was gonna be a millionaire, you know?
Like, I'm doing all the things.
Yeah, exactly, and I guess what it came down to is I realized that I was layering somebody else's process over my dream, and it just
Mm.
very quickly became something very different than what I imagined, and I
Yeah.
didn't like it, and I was broke. I was spending tons of money that I didn't have to spend, all
Mhm.
with this idea that I just wasn't good enough yet. I just needed to learn more.
Mm.
And boy, was that a big trap for me, that learn more
Yeah.
trap. 'cause that feels productive when you're buying courses and joining programs but nothing was coming out the other side. So
Yeah,
it was those first couple of years were really tricky for me just from that perspective of being gurued.
right. Okay, there's so many things I wanna dig into on this. So first of all, I actually didn't realize that this was prior to this HR consulting business. You had a this was this a health coaching business that you
Yeah,
started first?
yep. I coached
Interesting.
emotional
Okay.
eating and weight loss. I went out and got certified at IIN. I am a certified health coach, and I love that work. The
Yep.
HR work kind of came when I made the decision to step away from corporate America. I
Mhm.
realized the thing that I loved to do was the HR work was missing.
Yeah.
So I made a really tough decision, pivoted, and now that's my thing. So that's how we got here.
Gotcha. Awesome. That is so cool. I love that. But I'm sure you learned it sounds like you learned a lot from that original experience building the health coaching business that I'm certain served you well as you embarked on this journey of the HR consulting business.
This pivot was fast. It was decisive. I knew exactly what I needed to do, and it was literally just a couple of months. I had almost all the pieces in place just to go out and
Yeah.
start selling my services. It made the world of
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. So I want to go back to what you said about you were layering on somebody else's process on top of your dream.
Mhm.
So I want to dig into that for a minute because it makes me think about, and I never say I'm not a business coach. I stay strictly on the marketing side, but I certainly follow a lot of business coaches and
Mhm.
consultants. I consume a lot of their content, right, in this entrepreneurial space. And so it just makes me think of those people that I follow who are really big on being clear on your vision and your
Mhm.
values and making sure that you have that solid foundation. There's actually a clarity coach that I collaborate very often with. If clients come to me first for marketing and they're not clear enough on their offer or their audience, I will
Mhm.
send them to her first to get that because I'm like, we can't build a solid marketing plan until you have
That's
that
right.
foundation. So she calls that like foundational clarity. And then I help with the strategic marketing. And then, there's the execution and all of that. It's kind of this pyramid shape that she describes. But it makes me think of that. So it sounds like maybe you didn't have that foundational aspect first. And so then you start layering on what these other people are telling you, and it kind of muddies
Yeah.
that water. It kind of like dilutes that organic foundation that you were trying to build.
That's exactly it. And in fact, all of the guruing and trying to do all of these processes and funnels and formulas and frameworks completely diluted my message, the message I was trying to get out to people. And when that
Mhm.
happened, it was like I was shouting into a void. The people that I needed to reach, the people that I knew I wanted to work with, they weren't even hearing me. It wasn't even coming close to reaching them because it was so
Yeah.
far misaligned with what I was
Yes.
trying to do.
Yeah. It's so funny when you say that. It reminds me of a conversation I had with a very well respected and now very successful coach. And I remember we were having a back and forth on LinkedIn about just in the DMs about marketing and like
Mhm.
some of his struggles. And he said, marketing feels like I'm running through a field screaming and
Yeah.
hoping that someone will hear me. Like, so
Yeah,
that's the visual that came to mind when you said that is like it's like you're yelling into this void, like, I don't know, hopefully someone will hear what I'm saying, care about what I have to say.
yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly.
how long did you I'm trying to like envision this whole like story that you have. How long did you kind of keep pushing on that until you realized like something's got to change? I can't do
I
this.
think I dare say it was about a year and a half because, I came out of my coaching certification. I didn't know anything about being an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, nothing. Even though I'd been in corporate business for 30 years, this is a whole nother ball game. So I
Yeah.
had to, I mean, I was guru to the point that I went out and bought the most expensive all-in-one platform because the guru said that's the one I needed to have. I didn't even know how to use that thing. I
Oh.
and I used it for about 6 months and then finally, ditched it because it was too expensive. But things like,
Mhm.
I bought into a great big, you know, program, build a course, sell a course, because that's what I'll do. I'll sell. That was never part of my dream, selling a course, but this was how you do it. I thought, and all the
Right.
things, right down to like Canva. We all need Canva, love Canva, but then I went down that rabbit hole. Well, I can't use it until I become an expert at designing, and it was just a
Mm.
mess for the whole
Yeah.
first year and a half, and I sold nothing. I had 0 clients, but I spent a lot of
Yeah.
time and money building that business.
Yeah, and it sounds to me based on, kind of what we talked about before we came on the show was it sounds like you had said there were some promises, right? Is like, okay, well,
Yes,
if you follow my model, this is what you're going to achieve.
very much. And I bought
Yeah.
it hook, line, and sinker, and when it failed, I truly believed, like, in my soul, there was something wrong with me. I was doing something wrong, and I
Mm,
doubted if this was even gonna work out. But there was
right.
something, I think, a little bit stronger somewhere buried deep inside that said, "No, this is gonna work, and you will figure this out." And I think
Yeah.
that's when I started to make that turn, and with the help, I just and I do believe like, the people you need come to you when you need them. I came
Mhm.
across, a coach that I'm still working with today that was the thing that I needed to kinda make me
Yeah.
step back and just kind of examine what I'd been doing and if it's what I wanted to do. And when I really was
Right.
honest, like, this is not what I wanted to do at all. And it was
Yeah.
just kinda like that old expression, "Let's burn it to the ground and let's start doing what you wanna do." And about that same
Right.
time, I think that's when I met Wendy too. And the
Oh,
pieces were just coming
yeah.
together, and that's when the whole thing about getting my message back, that
Mhm.
became the most important thing. And
Right.
when I did that, then things finally started to click.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to hammer home on the point that you made about you first of all the promises that are made, and again, people
Mhm.
who follow me know like I'm very against that. I never make
Yes.
promises to my clients. I mean, I promise in terms of like how I want you to feel, but that's not even a promise. It's like this is the goal
Yeah.
we're working towards. I don't make promises. This is what we're going to do. This is how I hope you feel at the end of it. Here's what you should get out of that process. But I never say like, and you're going to get 3 new clients next week. Like that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And I always caution people that if you're hearing someone make that kind of promise, you need to stop and really examine that and question
Mhm.
it. Because I think that those types of messages can really prey on people's desperation. And to the point that I really wanted to hammer home, like you said, Norma, you're sitting there and you're like, I'm doing all these things and it's not working. It must be my fault. Like, oh my God, my
Yeah.
heart broke a little bit when you said that
Yeah.
because I think that's so common and so unfortunate.
Yeah, and it's like these all like these all or nothing approaches. Like, you do it this way, follow every one of my steps. I think the best example I can come up with, the one that really I think caused me the most trouble was selling. Of course, I can't think of just maybe a handful of people that I know that actually enjoy selling, and
Yeah.
for me, that was the hardest part, like, asking for money, but so I've came across another celebrity coach that, had a process that touted that just do this because it worked for me, and you'll make
Mhm.
money, but the just do this part, in my opinion, was gross. It was awful. It was
Oh, yes.
gaslighting. It was the kind of thing that, like, one of the pieces of advice was, if someone's on a Zoom with you and says, "I need to talk to my spouse before I make a decision," my response should have been, "Well, is your spouse home? Go get him, bring him on. We'll chat about it now." Oh,
Yeah.
that is not me. So, I just couldn't do those things, but I
Yeah.
tried.
Yeah.
I took my toes right up to the line, and
Yeah.
I couldn't go any further, and needless to say, I didn't sell a darn thing, for about
Yeah.
a year and a half,
Right, right. Well, and that's what I always tell the clients that I work with too is like if you're trying to force yourself into doing some tactic or showing up in some way or taking advice from somebody and it doesn't feel right or good to you, it's not going to get you results because
Mm-mm.
whether you realize it or not, there is going to be, and I'm not like a huge like woo woo person, but I truly believe there is like underlying energy that other people can pick up on that's like,
Yep.
I don't know. I don't think I'm going to invest in this thing right now because here, this person who's trying to sell me, like, whether it's whether it's obvious or not, that I think that there's just some kind of energy there that it's like, nah, I just don't think that this is right for me
Well, I
because
think
that person selling is doing something that doesn't feel right to them.
yeah, it's like I believe people can just sense that. They can almost smell it,
Yes.
I think. But think about yourself. I
Mhm.
mean, one of the things I hate more than anything is buying a car. And I
Ugh.
always my husband's like a negotiator, he just thrives on that kinda stuff. So I'll send
Yeah.
him off to the dealership, "You get it all done, and when you're ready for a signature, then call me," because I don't want any
Yes.
part of that, you know?
Yep. Mhm.
And and
I
so I
totally feel you.
that's why I was so sensitive to selling to other people because of how I feel
Mhm.
about sale, how I don't like to be sold to in that manner.
Yes.
And
Yep.
and I was this particular guru was asking me to do something that was so opposite of how I like to function as a human in the world, and it was just
Yeah.
never gonna work. It was never gonna work.
Right.
So,
Right. So tell me about that shift. You kind of went through this struggle for a year, year and a half, and then it sounds like you met this other coach. Is
yep,
that what kind of like really turned things around for you?
it really was, it really was. It was kind of like the let's like I said, she really got me to a place where I could step back and look at what I had done over the last year and a half, what I built or hadn't built, and decide, is that my dream? Is that the thing that got me started? And it very clearly
Mhm.
wasn't. And
Mhm.
we spent just a lot of time just helping me get clear on what I wanted. And then once I really understood that and got rooted in that again, then I could start building things that aligned with that. Like
Yep.
I I had one mentor around the same time that had a lot of success on Instagram with reels. I just it's not my thing. I don't like it. And it's
Yeah.
and as much success as he'd had, I tried real hard, but I only tried
Yeah.
for, like, a hot second, and then I recognized, "Oh, Norma, you're doing it again. Step back. Nope, I don't
Yeah.
wanna do that." So I think that was the
Yes.
big shift where I could see it in myself when I was starting
Yep.
to fall back on the guru, and
Right.
it was really it feels more intentional now. I think that's what I'm trying to say. The choices I make
Mm.
now are very intentional versus kind of like looking for an answer in someone else. I'm finding him in myself now.
Yes. Intentional and I think aligned. That's what I'm hearing
Mhm.
a lot from you.
Yep.
Just, reading between the lines of what you're saying is like those approaches that you're taking to your marketing or how you're structuring even your offers is like there has to be alignment with what's important to you. What do you want this to look like?
Yeah. And that's part of the reason I think when I started building the HR consultancy, I focus on small business owners with 20 or less employees.
Mhm.
Those are the people that I think because I kind of watch their marketing on LinkedIn and I can
Yeah.
see, oh my gosh, they're getting guru too. And I want to get in there and help them.
Oh,
I can see them doing things that
yeah.
are clearly not aligned to their product, their service, whatever it is. And it's just it feels good to be able to spot those things now because I know I've figured it out and I can help someone else figure it out. And I actually think that's
Yes.
part of an HR consultancy is being there to support that business owner. So
Yeah.
it's been really fun to kind of
I love
intermingle
that.
the marketing thing with the
Right.
HR work. So
Yeah.
added
Well,
bonus.
you know what's so interesting hearing your story, Norma, is it brings me back to a huge pivot that I made in my own business. When I first started, again, I was kind of, and I wouldn't say it wasn't necessarily a guru thing for me at that point, but it was just taking advice and tips from all these other business owners that I was like going out to lunch with, having coffee with,
Yeah.
hopping on a Zoom call, like whatever, just trying to like absorb as much as I could in terms of advice and guidance. And the big thing I kept hearing was like, get people on monthly retainer. Like, you need to get people on monthly retainer so
Mhm.
that you have recurring revenue. And like, and I valued that advice, and that's how I built my business when I first started. But the result of that was I ended up becoming like an agency, like a marketing agency of
Mhm.
one. And I did that for a year, and then the pandemic hit, and all of those contracts I had everyone on 6-month retainers. So luckily, like for me, at first the pandemic hit and I was like, I'm good. I still like I have
Yeah.
money coming in, still good. Like I'm okay. And then 6 months after the pandemic hit, all of my clients were, except for one, were like, yeah, we can't renew. Like things are just, the world's too crazy.
Yeah.
Things are too uncertain. Like we can't renew. And so I lost all of my clients after only a year and a half, almost all my clients. And so I was in this position of like, well, now what do I do? And I was fortunate enough to go to a workshop on Clifton strengths and like start digging, to your point, digging in and really looking inside. And I'm like, you know what? I really didn't enjoy what I was building. Like I didn't
Yeah.
enjoy running social media for 5 different companies at the same time and writing their emails and adding blogs to their website and making edits to their website and like all of these. I'm like, I really don't enjoy that work. And so if I'm working my
Exactly.
butt off to like build this thing, I want to enjoy my work. And
Yep.
similar to you, I had this realization like, wait a minute. Now I've been immersed in this world of a lot of solo business owners who left corporate just like I did.
Mhm.
And they love the work that they do and they had this passion. They want to make a difference, but the marketing got in the way. And I was like,
Yep.
if I can make marketing more simple and, take away the frustration and the overwhelm and show them like simple, effective ways to market themselves authentically and in alignment, what a great gift that is for them to be more
Yeah.
successful and for me to have this great impact. So I didn't want to make that all about me, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, what you're
No, no,
saying is
that's
so parallel.
it's exactly it, and I've mentioned my coach a couple of times, I might as well plug her.
Yeah.
Coach Jenny from Jenny and Meredith, has
Oh,
something, a 2 questions that she taught me that I
yeah.
still to this day kinda step back and ask myself when I think about my marketing or any kind of a marketing experiment that I'm running, and
Hmm.
that is it working? Do I love it? And if the answer is no to either one of them, then
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it anymore.
Yeah.
I've tried a lot of things. I've tried
Is it
podcasts, I've
working or do
tried
I love it? Yeah.
YouTube, and not that any one is better than the other, there were just some that I really liked doing, and they did work,
Hmm.
so I stayed with
Yeah.
them, and others I've just let go, and I think that was a big pivot for me, is realizing that you can try something, put a lot of effort into it, and just decide either I just don't like it or it's not working or both, and just walk away from it, and that's okay.
Yes. Yes. I think that's the blessing and the curse of marketing is that there's so many ways that you can market that the curse is it can feel very overwhelming. It can feel like you
Mhm,
have to do all of the things. But I think the blessing in it is if you can really be intentional, like you said
mhm,
before, and select things that work for you and that you enjoy doing, that's where the gold is. I mean, that's where you're going to get the results. That's where you're going to stick with it because you're enjoying doing it and you're getting great results. It ends up being this,
yep.
continuous circle that keeps going around and feeding itself.
And I think whatever your message is, just naturally comes out when those 2 things are in play, when things are working and you enjoy it.
Mhm.
You don't have
Yes.
it doesn't feel like you're trying to shout into the abyss or force something on people. You
Yes.
just it's just comes so much more natural, I think, when you're happy with what's going on and you like what you're doing.
Yeah. So, as we get ready to wrap up here, Norma, I feel like we could continue this
Yeah.
conversation for like another hour. But in the interest of time, so I'm just trying to think for those listening to the show, if they're like, "Okay, this all sounds great. I need to look inward. I need to pay attention to what feels good to me, what is in alignment, what's working, where do I enjoy showing up?" Are there any pieces of advice that you could give people and how do you actually do that? Like how do you
Yeah.
tune out all the guru and the noise and the endless
Yep.
possibilities and how do you tune into that?
Yeah, so I think first I'll just say this, I don't wanna sound like I'm just, like, knocking the gurus because there's some really great people out there that I think truly deserve the badge of honor of being a guru. But
Mhm.
this is where I think the kind of the how-to comes into play. Just recognizing that you get to decide. And another phrase that I've, worked on with my coach too is, "Take what you want, leave the rest behind." You can follow somebody, you can like what they're saying and not
Yes.
agree with all of it. Maybe there's so I
Yep.
think, like I said, I don't wanna, like, sound like I'm just hating on all the celebrity coaches because there's some great ones out there, but
Mhm.
you've got to be really focused on you and how it feels and aligns with you and how you wanna work, how you wanna show up in the world. So I think one of the most important things that I did, I became very selective about who I was
Yeah.
going to allow to influence me. And
Yes.
people like Coach Jenny and Wendy White, and I made those decisions because their message aligned very closely with mine. And when
Yep.
I did that, it was like, whoa, I mean, everything just burst open. So I think that's my
Yes.
best piece of advice. Be very selective and think of it in that sense. You're choosing who's going to influence you rather than just
Yes.
allowing everybody to influence you.
Yes. So be selective in terms of who you're following, who you're taking advice from.
Mhm,
And I love, love, love your point. Take what you want and
mhm.
leave the rest
Yep,
because even the most expert people out there, I would even say that about the advice that I give to my clients, right? Like
absolutely.
take what sounds good, what feels aligned, and if it doesn't, and I always encourage my clients to push back on me, right? If I'm telling you to do
Yeah,
something, I'm always like, how does that feel? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, let's back up a little bit. Let's dig into it. Let's like
yep,
come to a collaborative solution that feels doable and realistic and aligned for you. And sometimes it does mean pushing yourself outside your comfort zone a little
yeah.
bit. But if you can't get in the groove and if it just feels like there's too much resistance, maybe that's a piece that you leave behind.
Exactly. And it is nuanced, it does take time because,
Yeah.
we're human, we're conditioned to, want to achieve and want to do well and follow these people that are, appearing to be experts, and it's just a
Yes.
matter of, like I said, just stepping back and just deciding what feels good and what may not feel like something you wanna try.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, Norma, I am so incredibly grateful for your willingness to come on the show. This was, I think, very full of great advice for listeners. Very lastly, Norma, if people want to learn more about you and the HR consulting services that you're offering these days, how can they get in touch and learn more?
Yeah, I think the best way is LinkedIn. That has become my very intentional focus is LinkedIn,
Love
and
it.
I've left everything else behind. So, it's Norma Frahn on LinkedIn. You can find me right over there. And on my LinkedIn page, I have all my other links to my website and any
Okay.
type of resources that I have. So, first best place
Great.
to find me.
Great. Thanks. Me too. I'll see you there. Awesome. Thank you so much, Norma. Thanks again for coming on the show. And until next time, everybody.